Today I want to talk about the York House in Pikeville, Kentucky. It's also known as the Creekmore Mansion, and it's very interesting. The Hatfield McCoys was a famous feuding family in Pikeville and Mingo County. Now Randolph McCoy, Sarah McCoy, Rosanna McCoy, and many more are laid to rest in the Dils Cemetery to this day in Pikeville. It's open to the public so you can visit it. John Dils had 5 children. One of these children was Augusta. When Augusta was 25, she met and married a wealthy lawyer named James York. Now, as a wedding gift, John Dils gifted her the York House, which was built in the early 1800s. To this day, if you go to 223 Main Street in Pikeville, you can see the original stained glass. But one thing was different. Something was missing, and that was the tower. So this is John Dils' house, which we'll be going to see his grave later. Ow. Born in Parkersburg in 1818, Dils came to Pikeville. 1840 and became a merchant. In 1861, while the area was under Confederate control, he was arrested for Union sympathy, sent to Libby Prison in Richmond, Virginia. He was quickly released in February 1862. He went to D.C. to meet with President Lincoln. He also built this cemetery that we're going to look at. It's called Dils Cemetery. It was the first cemetery in eastern Kentucky that allowed African Americans to be buried. Upon returning to East Kentucky, he raised a regiment that became the 39th Kentucky Mounted Infantry Union, which fought several large engagements in the region during the Civil War. He died in 1895 and buried in Dils Integrated Burial Ground. He did have slaves though, because I've been in his house.
Yeah, he freed a bunch of them.
He had slaves in his house though.
Yeah.
Because he's got slave quarters, so I don't know how that works. But yeah. That being said, he actually built this house for his daughter, and she married James York, which is why it's called the York House. And James York was a lawyer in the Hatfield McCoy feuds. Perry Cline's next door, which was also a lawyer. So there was a lot of paperwork, and Randall McCoy was said to have come here almost every day to get updates and check on how things were going. You know, even though Perry Cline might have been a fire starter in the feud, it'd been 6 years since Randall McCoy's children were killed without anybody even being in court. You know, and say what you will, that's something that'd piss anyone off. So I don't believe that Perry Cline was the sole reason that Randall McCoy had a fire under his ass, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 5 children, regardless of the circumstances. They're still your children, plus your younger brother. So.
Yeah. Did you see the big groundhog run underneath the house?
Groundhog?
You
no.
see the hole right there?
Yeah,
at
I do see the hole.
Stairs?
That's what that cat was looking at the other day.
When you were recording from the other side, there was a big groundhog ran underneath there about that big.
So one really interesting thing about this house that some people don't know is this house is one of the haunted hotspots of Pikeville, and they will not let you like ghost hunt in it. I've ghost hunted in it, but I'm not allowed to release the footage. But we actually got quite a bit of activity. It's a really cool location, regardless of what you think. Yeah. But anyways, she had a daughter named Geraldine, and she was special needs. And a long time ago, special needs made people uncomfortable. So she would. There was a tower here, right here by this tree that is now knocked down, and there's a lot of ghost stories called Cries in the Tower, where she sat up there, banged on the window, screamed. People would walk on the other side of the sidewalk like they didn't want nothing to do with that mess. They said it was either from a high fever or she was just born disabled, but it triggered a big ghost story. So it's a location I feel drawn to. I'd love to own it. But I think Pikeville just leases it out.
City own it.
City owns it.
It'd be hard to heat in the winter.
Yeah, hard to heat and cool. So I like the gate. It's super creepy, haunted housey. I'm not going to go in there because I don't think we can, but, well, I don't know. But next we're going to go check out John Dils' grave. The last leg. Stairs, anyways. John Dils purchased this property in 1871. It's one of the first cemeteries in Kentucky that allowed African Americans to be buried. There's 500 graves. 130 are identified. So right behind it is, of course, McCoy, Randolph. So some people say Sarah is not buried here. She died about 30 years before Randall McCoy. There's actually not a whole lot about her life. I tried to figure out what she died of, but I could not find it. But she did live with Randall in the house that is now Chirico's till her death, and he lived there till he died. He was about 88, and he fell into a cooking stove and got severely burnt. He died of those burns.
All right, here, this one is John Dils. Yeah. That's all poison ivy, by the way, if you come up here. I know that very well. But they've got a little lookout over here, which there's a tree down on it now. I could almost knock the sign over, and it took out a section of the fence. There's a little, little viewing area here. You can look out over town.